Jackson DePew, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be here finally.
Great to have you. You're on the Super Connector podcast. I'm Alec Fall Hamilton. This here is one of my best friends, Mr. Jackson DePew. Jackson, who are you? What do you do?
Oh man, who am I? The centerpiece question.
Dive right into it.
To dive right in. I'm a Golden Retriever reincarnate. I would say the spirit of a Golden Retriever. I'm getting older and wiser, and more humble, as you can tell, as the years go on. I think at my heart and at my core, I'm someone who likes to provide opportunities. That's where it all comes down for me, like opportunities for myself, opportunities for others to see life through a new lens, experience something a little bit differently, maybe an opportunity to slip out of a complacent, vicious cycle. And so I think an instructor, educator, Golden Retriever. That's me.
Wow, what a great calling to have.
Yeah, I mean, the tennis balls aren't going to fit themselves.
No doubt about it. So we get into a little more detail about what does it mean to be a Golden Retriever?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think not fighting it, not fighting yourself. That's what it means to be a Golden Retriever. Golden Retrievers, see, they know that the only thing that matters is just being happy and chasing tennis balls. Look for those snuggles, taking the naps, making smiling as a dog face. That was what I was just about to try and what I was going to try and make happen, but I think that's what it means, man. When I realized that, it was back when we were living together, was I think when that first came to fruition.
Yeah, I gave you that name.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, like what if I am a Golden Retriever? And I think for the better part of maybe a year or two, or maybe like my whole college career, I really just owned that feeling and stopped trying to fight wanting to like seek out things and go fetch experiences and like relay them back to my inner circle of loved ones. I think that's when I was like, oh, this is what it means to be a Golden Retriever.
Great. Yeah, that's quite accurate, I would say. I also think something that's really important is that you have a genuinely kind heart, and the way you approach the world is much like a Golden Retriever, because you come into a situation with an open heart and a smile, and almost everybody likes you because you do that. It's like people really respond to that energy. And that's, I believe, your superpower, or one of your superpowers.
Oh, thanks, man.
So thanks for radiating that. I appreciate it. Appreciate it always. And I meet a lot of people, and most people don't have that.
That's interesting. I wonder if because I'm doing it, I don't see people not have that as much, because I'm like, if I see more of it because I'm putting it out there more, like as much as I can.
Yeah, maybe I need to put it out there more. I'm a little too reserved or something.
I don't know. I wouldn't say reserved. I would say mysterious, if anything. But you're one of the more smiley, yes, can do people I think I've ever met.
Thank you. Well, I definitely work to embody that as well.
Yeah, it's too easy to not. Yeah, it is too easy to not smile sometimes. I've been noticing that a lot lately. I was like, man, I've gone through this whole day and I haven't really like laughed much today. I guess it must be different for you now that you have this little bug of joy just stumbling around your house trying to walk. Can she walk?
She's running now. She's a little love bug running around these days.
Yeah. Imagine if I had a small child running around my house all day, I'd probably be laughing a lot more.
It's amazing how much joy she brings into our lives.
Right? That's the natural state.
She also, I will say, brings a lot of drama. She goes hard with her emotions, whether they be positive or negative. So
is she already a drama queen?
Like, oh yeah. She's a Pisces, Pisces women. They have a special magic, but also they feel so deeply. It's hard for me to even go there, I think. And then something that I was calling in when I decided to manifest my wife and our child was I was calling in the water element. And symbolically that means feminine and receptive, and also transformative, intuitive. And I really intensely succeeded in calling it in, because it's something that I have very little of in my birth chart, is the water element, and it also symbolizes emotions. So not that I don't have emotions, but I think I have a way of being a little bit more disconnected from them. Like somebody will ask me how I feel, and I'll be like, I don't know. I'm like, I know what I'm thinking.
Yeah. But, interesting.
Yeah, I'm living in the air element a lot, which is thoughts and ideas, kind of the more mental realm. But I called in very powerfully that water element because Emily is Cancer the crab, the moon child, water sign, and then Coral is the fish, also a water sign, and we live right by the ocean. So it's been a very watery time. Sometimes I'm just swimming in it.
Yeah. You are swimming in it, man. You're swimming in it. I wonder, do you think you were pretty intentionally trying to manifest this amazing woman, Emily, your partner, and do you think that kind of meditation or that intentionality behind bringing that emotional water into your life had anything to do with you having a girl as a baby?
Yeah. Well, I knew I was going to have my first child was going to be a female.
Really?
Like years before I met Emily.
Oh.
So yeah, those intentions were connected, but I had no doubt about that.
Huh. Do you have a, what if I want, if I want a boy, could you give me any tips?
Well, are you manifesting boys? Is that what you're saying?
What at the time, when I decide I want to, bring another life into this world, or if I do, like, do you think that would you be able to pass on any tips to me that would enable me to choose a more feminine or masculine energy for my first son?
I'll have to think about that. I didn't really have the sense that I was choosing that per se. It was more of a no. I was just like 100%. I knew, like I said, like since a long time ago. So I wouldn't say that I chose it. I'll let you know if and when we have another one. I'll see what I can.
What you can pull off.
See what I can pull off in regards to that.
All right, cool. Right on. Let's see if we can make some science happen here.
Yeah. You saw it here, folks. Science.
You saw it here first. Alex chooses his next job.
Yeah. Right. So on that subject, let's hop right into that. So what is your belief in regards to the law of attraction and or manifestation, intentional creation?
What are my thoughts on it?
Experiences, beliefs.
Yeah. I feel like I've been having to face face that head on recently, at least with acknowledging what I'm putting into the world. And it seems to me that over the past better part of a decade, that anytime I'm trying to live to be my truest self, that good things just start to happen. And on the other hand, whenever I'm getting really complacent and I think unengaged with who I am, where I'm going, and I want to say like the story that I'm telling myself about myself, or maybe the frame that I'm putting my experience through. Whenever I'm not giving any credit to that stuff, I feel pretty shit. Like that's what comes back. It's just this, vicious kind of cycle. I was talking to somebody the other day about that, when we say like we're going in circles, like, oh, I'm just going in circles, that it's not necessarily going in circles, it's more going in a spiral. So it trends upward, right? We're moving forward, and we have the ability to reference our past in this new experience. And while it might be similar, or we're facing similar, tribulations or challenges, we can see it through a new lens, right? Because we're not like in the same spot. We're like above it just a little bit. We can look down and in our past and see something a little bit differently with new wisdom, I guess, in some way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, whenever I'm not putting it out there, I'm not getting anything returned. So I don't know. I mean, manifestation to me seems like a powerful concept that I think would behoove everyone to explore at some point in time in their life. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I believe very strongly that we're all doing it all the time. I mean,
manifesting, or
manifesting. We're all doing it all the time. I mean, that's just the nature of creation, is that it's constantly manifesting, and as human beings, we've been given this incredible power to be able to really control and direct our environment in a way that most other sentient beings don't exactly have.
Yeah.
And with that, we have these immense powers of creation. So I see manifestation as just like really absolutely fundamental to all of creation, but especially as a human being, like we're constantly in this process of doing it. And I believe one of my main missions in life is to really spread the word about that and be like, hey, we're doing this together, like pay attention.
I love that personal mission is you've got to write that sucker down, put that on your LinkedIn or something, man. I mean, my relationship with you, I think, was founded out of that, was spreading the good word that you're doing this, whether you know it or not, whether you're trying to or not, like this is what you're doing. I mean, oh man, if I still had that cork board up on my wall. Oh man, it's somewhere. But do you remember that, man? That was like, I was going through my journal the other day and I opened up some of these entries from 2010, 2011, like right when we started living together. There was just this page all about saying yes. It was all about saying, yeah. Do you remember that? And I was like, man, Alec, you got to tattoo this on my body or something, man. And you came up with like these tattoo designs. I almost pulled the trigger and got it on my body somewhere. But I think that was my first introduction into what manifesting was, and what the implications of putting an intention behind your thoughts, words, and actions. So
yeah, that was a beautiful time in life. So for those who are watching, me and Jackson were college roommates.
yeah.
We were I would say put together pretty like, not totally randomly, like we had common friends, but we barely knew each other when we got put together as roommates.
Oh yeah. It was destiny. It was destiny for me, I think.
Yeah, me too, for sure. I mean, we've been friends ever since, and had just like a beautiful unfolding of many other connections and experiences coming from that. And so, talking about saying yes, Jackson, Aries sun, Virgo moon, put that out there for the astrological record. And I think you really embody that, like the adventurous spirit of the Aries in terms of saying yes. Like usually if an opportunity came up, you would be the one who's like, great, let's do it, we're on it. And I'd be like, well, like I got this and this and this thought, and let me dilly-dally a little more around here. Libra, I'm a Libra life forever, but Libra Scorpio, so I think there's more decisiveness on the Scorpio side. Libra's decisive, they just like to wait until the absolute last possible moment to be decisive.
I don't know. I don't know about that. You got that Scorpio in you talking right now.
It's kind of a Libra joke.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, when we were living together, though, I mean, that was an interesting room to be living in as well. You know, I think we made these, we made cave-like structures with our beds. we didn't want to like bunk it up, and we didn't want, I don't know what we were doing. So we just made these caves, like with all these tapestries. We had our own like little fortresses of solitude, and then would come out into the common area. And Alec would just be, you know, drawing some majestic narwhal with one line without ever letting his pen leave the paper. And I'd be over there just mesmerized by like the endless stream of mandalas that he was making at that time. I think that was
Mandala Factory.
Yeah, that was the Mandala Factory for sure.
Remember, I was sleeping with that drawing of death by my bed for a while.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, you were doing a lot of meditation on death, weren't you? Or at least the life cycle.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird time. It was winter time, and I was going into this concept of like really thinking about what actually happens when you die and how it's such an interesting mystery. But then also like some cultures have pretty strong like documentation and ideas about exactly what happens and where you go.
Yeah.
It's also really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I've been trying to do that a little bit more when I wake up. I don't know about you, but over here it's really easy to do the same thing again tomorrow and have it be nothing. Like doing nothing as like just this cycle it's like Groundhog's Day all over again, you know? So I've been trying to wake up, and one of the first, you know, few things that I do is to like at least bring focus to the, you know, the vulnerability of life, or at least the, you know, that it's not gonna be here someday. And
yeah, it's so funny how easy it is to forget that. I mean, I think it's really indicative of the fact that life is really good for a lot of people in the world right now. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of hardship and trauma happening, but like all in all, things are really good, and life is pretty safe for a lot of people. And I think we almost like, or not almost like, we pretty effectively shield ourselves from the concept of death and kind of like being close to it in any sort of real way. There's a lot of different ways that we do that, but it makes it easy to forget that, you know, these days are precious and you only have so many.
Yeah.
You don't know how many.
Yeah, that is I guess a privilege that is a privilege, isn't it?
It is. I mean, life is good. Coronavirus and the drama of this year has brought into perspective the fact that, like, you know, historically speaking, we live in a very peaceful time, and also like a very safe time, and
yeah,
you know, so much technology and innovation making our lives easier and easier. There are prices that come with that as well. What do you think? That brings up a question about, like, a lot of your background and your experiences with outdoor leadership, and you've also seen the intersection of that with technology. What can you tell us about the sort of juxtaposition?
So you cut out for just 1 second. The juxtaposition between what?
Between our connection with nature and our increasing connection and dependence on technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially prevalent right now, I think. I mean, we're faced with an obscene amount of hours and opportunities to be engulfed by this little Skittle box right here, this vortex, as you would call it. And I mean, the relationship between that type of stimulus isn't really something I think our brains evolutionarily are made to have around us that much, you know, and there's tons of studies about it coming out, you know, every day, that explain the chemical reaction in our bodies to stimulus, you know. And I don't know if you've seen this, but The Social Dilemma on Netflix is, I put off watching it for a while because I didn't want to open up Pandora's box. Pandora doesn't go back in the box once you open it. You know, you open it, it's over. Sure. And I mean, they were talking a lot on that documentary, I guess is what it is, about the amount that the teams of people behind the design of like the like button, you know, or the way that you refresh a page, and whether they wanted to or not, they've created an interface that is indirectly or like directly addictive. You know, it's fueling us in this way that in the past nature and experiences did. So my background as an outdoor educator is essentially, I mean, it's putting a willing student into a foreign environment with limited resources and giving them opportunities to work with other people and work with themselves in a way that produces some type of intrapersonal or interpersonal development. That's an interesting way of putting that, but
I got you.
And so, like, seeing these groups of students from all different age groups, you know, all over the country, being put out of their elements and finding new ways to interact with the world around them. When you introduce technology and stimulus to that equation, it almost seems to numb something, some part of that development or that developmental process. And what I mean by that is personally, when I step out of the field and out of that role of instructing and outdoor leadership, I find it difficult to move forward sometimes with this like stimulus crutch. You almost have like you do have like a small assist in your life. It's like, oh, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling happy, or I'm feeling depressed or lonely or isolated, or whatever it may be, and I have some type of quick band-aid fix that's going to give me what I need, and like the dopamine that my soul desires, by this artificial fucking thing right here, man. Like I can just jump on and look at pictures of golden retrievers fetching tennis balls. It's like, oh, I'm happy, cool. Like it's like escapism, readily available escapism that's socially acceptable, and that is, I would say, and I don't want to put a blanket statement on it, like, every part of our technology system or technological development is this terrible, deconstructive thing. But I think, a good portion of the time it is either actively or passively deconstructing our experiences with ourselves and with the world around us. So I don't know where the juxtaposition in that is, but but
I know it. I see it.
I'm grateful that quarantine and isolation has made us more capable of connecting in this way, like being able to to see you right now and have this experience with you. Like, I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also grateful that it seems like we have shown a little bit of light on the dilemma of technological advancements and connectivity and the negative implications of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely don't see it as being entirely positive or negative. I think it's immensely powerful and transformative, and
for sure,
it has brought about great wonders and great tragedies, and will continue to do so. That is a great documentary, by the way. I'd recommend anybody watch that, The Social Dilemma, especially if you're feeling a little bit addicted to your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, it shows you, like, you think you know what the movie's about, but it shows you more layers and layers and layers of like, kind of how deep and intense this stuff goes, and how it's actually, like, it's resulted in revolutions in different countries, like,
yeah, straight up.
And, you could argue that we're sort of on the edge of something like that here in America right now that is being fueled by social media. It's like, it's an engine that drives and increases polarity. It was one of my most important takeaways from that, because I didn't really see it as that, but it absolutely is, because you're constantly giving it feedback. It's constantly taking your feedback and kind of like pushing it one level over until you're like all the way to the left, or all the way to the right, or like all the way down, all the way down
whatever
the rabbit hole.
Yeah, whatever box it's trying to put you in some type of category. Like, that's what the machine is doing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting and kind of scary to watch. And actually, after that, I used to have this concept in my mind that social media is a tool, and I've changed that. I've changed that a little bit. I think social media is a tool, and about the same way as Adderall is a tool. Like, it can be very useful, but also this is a drug, folks.
Oh God, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
Thank you. You're the first person who I told that, and all your listeners as well. I think it's pretty true, though. It's like, just thinking about it as a tool is maybe not as descriptive as it needs to be.
Yeah, I never thought about it as a tool, honestly, and I think businesses have, adopted that viewpoint as it is a tool for them. And I think when I did a social media break, like Ross and Rachel style. That was a Friends reference for anybody who watches Friends who's watching this right now. But I was, on this break with social media, and I was trying to get to that spot where I utilized, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook to get something out of it, whether that was to connect with friends or to put out this idea or to share, this beautiful moment that might make, somebody's day better, instead of those platforms using me, to have my time. That's what they want from me is my time, my engagement, and my ad dollars,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be better off if we tried to look at it as a tool instead. I don't know how to make that happen, but
yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right. Businesses are doing that. That's how I've thought of it in my mind, because it's my way to show art with the world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of utility with social media, but it's also it's this force that, as you said, is vying for your attention and your money, your time and your money. Those are two things that are valuable. We love those things. Have as much as possible of both time and money.
Please, more time. Please, just a little bit more time.
So let me switch gears a little bit from that, and
yeah, for sure.
It's I guess a follow up a little bit, but in regards to the polarization that we're seeing in the country right now, political polarization, mask or no mask, all this drama that we're seeing, like
choose a side right now.
What does that what does that bring up in your mind? What can you tell people?
Oh man, this is something I've been thinking about for a while. Pre-Trump era as well, I think. I mean, yeah, you know me, and I think anybody who I interact with, I don't love extremism. I think it's great to be extreme, like go be bold, be daring, fight for what you believe in, but there's a but, like it's what I think Native American culture was really great about this, looking at Shaman Mother right above you. It was everything in moderation for a large portion of our lives, like too much of one thing is you're not living, harmoniously, I think, in some ways. So this polarization is essentially saying, if you polarize something and you make it binary, it's one or the other, it's one or it's two, it's left or it's right, it's, black or it's white. But for us humans, we're a bunch of little snowflakes, but in some way we are unique and the same in some respects. So saying that there's going to extremes just seems like we're not acknowledging that everyone's a human, and like I really wish that we could just get out of this big T truth or get out of this like belief mindset. I think that I forget who said it, maybe it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, we'd just be a lot better off if we just had really, really, really good ideas. I have an idea, it's not necessarily a belief. Like, I'm not going to fight a war over this belief. So I think that's like that's one thought that I have. And I think the other one, the other one is what we were talking about before we started this interview. We were talking a little bit about compassion. And I think
what's so good about compassion?
Dude, I mean, like, what's not good about it? Like, I think if you're being a compassionate person, then you're conveying some form of empathy. And I think I'm not saying that our polarized country is being malicious. I'm not trying to say that right now. What I'm trying to say is we need to be deploying an unprecedented amount of empathy and compassion right now, when we're this polarized. And I've seen this happen before with groups of kiddos, is that they'll form this divide in their group, and the team won't be able to operate for like the big picture vision. They won't be able to accomplish these big higher level tasks. And I'm not necessarily saying like a technical task, but like a developmental task, or, so I think when that divide happens, the conflict isn't constructive. It's not progressive. I like conflict. I think it's good because it breeds progress, but the type of progress that it breeds is dependent on the amount of empathy and compassion that both parties are able to employ.
Yeah, I think that last part especially is a very important message for us to acknowledge and hear right now.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things to watch about it, is that there seems to be very little compassion coming from a lot of people, and not just a lack of compassion, but like really like ugly hatred being thrown around like willy-nilly, and from people who don't even know each other, based on support of one political candidate or another, or one idea or another. And I think that type of behavior is definitely facilitated and encouraged by computers, the internet, social media, because you don't have the real world consequences of just going around being a dick to somebody to their face. Like, you just go around doing that all the time, you're gonna come up against some real world consequences. But
and on the internet,
not as much.
When it happens on the internet, though, it gives it life. It gives that type of behavior, those type of actions, validation. Not only acknowledgement, but validation. It's just perpetuating a cycle.
How do you mean the validation? Like it garners more attention, or what?
I play some video games. I play Call of Duty. I play a little bit of some Blizzard games. So on there, I see like the chat, or I hear people like talking to other people, just other humans, and it's just so ugly and so so mean, and I'm a sucker for bullies. Like that's like the one non-negotiable for me is to let any type of, emotional harassment happen. And, somebody says something and it's, something oppressive, whether it's like passively oppressive or actively oppressive, and somebody seconds that, or nobody does anything, either way, it's perpetuating a cycle of oppression. So I think it's valid in it's valid in the sense that, like, you see a hateful comment and it has like a few likes and replies, or it has somebody replying and arguing with that person about what they said, and then it's giving air to the fire,
Yeah. I see what you mean by that. So
yeah,
going on from there, I think one of the reasons why we are seeing this in our country is because we've just had an absolute horrendous breakdown of leadership. Like,
yeah,
we got our commander-in-chief is somebody who, approximately half or more of the country either don't respect, or outright hate. I mean,
yeah, straight up.
It's been bad before with other presidents, but this is the worst we've ever seen it.
Yeah.
And we have a situation where, in my opinion, the leaders who are coming to replace him are not really much of an upgrade. They're yeah, I'm pretty disillusioned with the state of the leadership in this country, but I didn't want to go too deep into that. I just want to more ask you, from your experiences really thinking about and studying leadership, what are some of the important traits of a good leader?
That's a great question. That's a great question, because I think so often we see leaders in one way, or at least when you're like, oh, think of a leader, you typically would think of somebody either, we have this joke at Outward Bound that, like, if you're taking a picture and you want to be a leader, just point somewhere, just point over there. So just like, hey, you guys, look over that way.
That's right.
So, like, pointing is leadership. But like, it's a funny joke for us because, so 1 second, my dog is looking like he wants to poop right now.
You
better hold it, buddy.
Quick bathroom break?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we can do a little intermission.
I think I think leadership has a box around it, much like, what we were talking about before, social media trying to put us into a box so that, social media can interact with us more optimally, right? We put boxes around leaders and we say, like, this is what you need to be if you want to be a leader. But like we know, a lot of different types of people can be good leaders, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not like a one size fits all for leadership. And I've seen this so many times, and I'm so fortunate to have seen it so many times, of unlikely people. And when I say unlikely, I mean not our typical concept of what a leader is becoming a leader. So, for instance, I had this one student, he was super soft-spoken, worked great in the team, like always did more than his fair share of work, and was always offering to help, asking great questions, but he was very quiet and very analytical in some ways. And he came up to me at the end of his course and he said, hey, like, I think I want to become like a rock guide. I really want to become a rock guide, but I'm not really like, you, or like, I think I was working with Alyssa then, or like Alyssa, I'm like more quiet and kind of awkward. I was like, dude, you can be the most awkward person in the world. You can be the quietest leader in the world, but it doesn't mean you can't be a great leader. Like, you just have to play to your strengths. So, I mean, now I just checked out his Instagram the other day, actually. He's like doing these amazing trips up the Tetons and like up these huge 14ers. And I mean, he's leading novices up these mountains and everything. So obviously he's a great leader now. But I guess my point with that tangent is that depending on, it's called situational leadership. So it's like, depending on the situation, you kind of utilize a different leadership style or a different leadership mode. So, you know, you can emphasize more empathy and emotional connection, or you can emphasize more motivation and kind of that air to the fire, or you can emphasize holding a big picture vision and kind of being the driver of the boat, or you can emphasize, you know, a more analytical, creative type of leadership style. Like, so there's so many different types of leaders, and like, just so you can be any different type of leader that you want to. But what separates, you know, it's tough because when you start thinking about, I was going to mention, you know, communist leaders and like dictators and stuff like that, because they're leaders too, right? But so when I think about a good leader in my mind, it's something that Kurt Hahn said a long time ago. Kurt Hahn is the founder of Outward Bound. He started back in the 1940s. And he's actually, Kurt Hahn is was a German Jew, and he was starting Outward Bound in Germany and publicly speaking out against Hitler, who was coming to power right around then, right? And this is a great example. Okay, great. You can cut all that other bullshit I just said about leadership styles out. You can cut that out or whatever. So the Kurt Hahn was publicly speaking out as the director of, I think it was the Gordonstrom School at that time. But he's publicly speaking out because he didn't agree with where Hitler was leading Germany at that time. So he was speaking out and saying, you know, you all are doing great at three things. You're doing great at three things. This is what he said. He said, you're being incredibly self-reliant. Like, you are figuring out how to do all this in just your little pocket of Germany. Like, you're doing great at self-reliance. You're also incredibly crafty. Your level of craftsmanship in the things that you're doing and the things that you're developing is amazing. You're also super fit and really jacked and yoked, and like, you care about fitness a lot. Like, that's amazing too. But you're missing one thing. You're missing compassion. And I know we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but he said the difference between, you know, Hitler and all the other, you know, or at least the leaders that he was fostering at his school, was his lack of compassion. So he put like that value at the top of his list for what a good leader had to, or what we as a people, I guess, had to embrace was an undefeating view to compassion being more important than anything else. So like, when I think about, you know, this new leader who we have, you know, I don't know, is he still the president? Is he still president-elect, or what's the deal? What's the latest on?
We don't know. We don't know. Right now, it's a contested election. Joe Biden is forecasted to have won, but.
And like, see, I don't even know where to look. I'm like, do I look at, you know, Fox? You know, where am I trying to get this information from? Like, I feel like I need an insider in the friggin' White House. Like,
yeah, just call up the White House. What's going on over there?
Can anybody give me a straight answer over here? Like,
I just want to know.
I just want a fact. Like, that's all.
Yeah, it's a weird limbo to be in.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at this new guy, and like, I honestly like whether or not he's an upgrade, whatever. Like, I want him to be compassionate, and I think that compassion unifies. It unifies us, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like the ability to ask questions and not have all the answers, but to care about somebody's response and where they're at, regardless of their background, where they live, or what they're doing right now. Like, I just want that. I just want more questions and less statements. I want more compassion and less oppression. Like, that's what I want from a leader who's steering our country. Like, is that too much to ask?
Is that too much to ask? Man, you should be a politician. You got my vote.
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if you want, like.
I'm just kidding. You don't want to deal with that bullshit.
Maybe I do. I don't know, man. I mean, I was taking one of those, I was working with this career coach, and they were saying, you know, the results come up, ENFJ, IP, whatever. And I think one of the career paths for me was politician. I don't think that I could play chess like that.
Yeah, I think you might be a little too honest and compassionate for that.
I imagine politics is like House of Cards. I don't know if that's.
No, I think there's actually a lot of politicians out there who are really working to serve the people. And you brought something up in my mind, which is there's the king archetype, right?
Yeah.
And we see the king as the ruler, you know, it's this person who has great power, but also, like, in its truest, highest form, the king archetype is a servant of the people. So they're leading the people to serve the greater good. And I think we've lost that to a certain extent, where we have a little bit of the what's the word? The oppressive ruler, you know, the ruler who is seeking power and control over seeking compassion and service.
I like what you said. I like the word that you used, to serve. That's actually one of underneath Our Bound slogan is to serve, to strive, and never to yield. And the service, I think, is a really good word that we could probably explore a little bit more. But I want our leader to serve humans, like the human race and the world that we are occupying. I was actually I wonder if I could pull it up. I was just watching this, the debate between Nixon and Kennedy, or John F. Kennedy. And they were talking a lot about, they were talking about, like, we have, what was it? It's our responsibility as Americans to try and make sure that like everyone is free. I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but it was like they were emphasizing the need to lead the world, not just our country. You know?
Yeah, and I think America has symbolically held that role for a while, and I think also we've lost our way. Sort of we've become deeply misguided, I think, in a number of ways. So service, let's get into the service a little bit, but first, right on that tangent, I wanted to say, like, what do you think America as a country stands for? Like, what are our core values, or what should we be striving to stand for?
Ooh. Oh man, that's a big one. That's a heavy one. I'll try and say something other than compassion. what should America be striving for right now?
What do we stand for? What are our values as a nation?
Man, I wish I could tell you right now, man. Like, I honestly think I think that we have a serious identity crisis going on right now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely at the root cause of where we're at. I mean, I think there's pretty widespread disagreement about what we stand for as a nation. And there's also this polarization in terms of people believing that America is 100% like evil, racist, bad place that doesn't stand for anything good in the world. And then the polar opposite of that is, you know, kind of believing that everything we do as a nation is good and right and just.
America's the best country in the world. Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think there's a lot of truth actually on either side of those, and a lot of truth in between. But I consider this question to be super important right now, because I think if you ask the average millennial or somebody younger than that, for the most part, we're going to say we don't really know what America stands for, and we have this kind of sense that America may not be that great of a place, and that it's doing all this evil stuff, and that everybody's racist. It's this kind of like distrust of who we are, I think, that's happening.
Yeah.
And I think this is I mean, it's incredibly important that we, first of all, like, talk about these things, but come to some sort of relative, I don't think I can even say consensus, because we have so many people in the country, but like,
yeah,
we should know what we stand for.
Yeah, you know, we should. I think I like what you said about not being able to come to a consensus because there's too many people. At my time as an outdoor instructor, we talk a lot about how groups make decisions, and there's no way that we can come to a consensus. We're too diverse, which I think is one of our greatest strengths. I think like what America stands for right now is going to be different than what I hope America stands for right now. But I would hope that what America stands for is to utilize our diversity to our advantage, and to capitalize on the different strengths that we can bring together as a country. But I don't think that that's where we're at right now, because where we see difference, we see weakness, or we're seeking people who think, or we're seeking or being fed similarities instead of differences. And when groups start to use their differences to their advantage, they win every time. You know, they make it public, like, oh, I don't have all the answers. Like, I don't know everything. I don't have the tools that I need to accomplish this thing. But somebody in my group does. Somebody in my community does. You know, and with all this connectivity that we have right now, like it seems like it would behoove us to start moving in that direction a little bit more. And again, like that's like a massive generalization. I'm so happy with the way that we're using our connectivity right now to accomplish really great things. But man, what we stand for right now, that's a really great question, Alec. I haven't really thought about that yet. I've just been seeing like a massive identity crisis and trying to make sure I know where I stand. And I think that's maybe a great direction to move, is to try and get like back to the fundamentals. Like, let's get back to our roots and where we are at a core. Like, get back to our values, and like forget about the minutia that is easy to not come to a consensus on. Like, let's come to a consensus on the things that are going to drive us for the next 40, 50, 100 years, you know, almost like like when you're working with a group, you have typically, you'll start with something called a full value contract, and kids have done it like in their schools. Their parents will make them do it, or not their parents, their teachers will make them do it and put a sign up, you know, on the wall that says, you know, these are our values, or this is what we stand for, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, it happens in business and stuff like that. But I think being able to refer back to some type of agreement, like, can we at least agree about this? Or like,
so America needs a full value contract.
Yeah, dude, America needs a solid full value contract, like straight up.
Write it up together.
Yeah, let's write it right now, man. Let's write it. I got a big old whiteboard I can bust out right now. But
all right, like, so let me get into what I consider to be the most important American values are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, freedom, the idea of live and let live, right? Like, we don't have, like, you know, we're not perfect in any of these ways, but for instance, like, we actually have a really good religious freedom in this country. Like, there's a lot of countries in the world where people today, right now, are getting killed just based on their identity group, their religion. And I know that does happen in America, but I guess what I'm saying is that comparatively, like, we're doing pretty good in terms of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and I consider those to be, like, absolutely some of the most important values that we have, and what has made us great.
For sure. I think like the OG, you know, the OG amendments and Constitution are definitely, like, you know, our driving principles for sure. And I mean, freedom is definitely the face, you know, the face of our country is freedom. But like, what would you add to our Constitution, or like, what would be a new amendment that you would employ if you were making those types of things for our country?
Well, amendment to the Constitution, I think one of the biggest problems we have right now is with the criminal justice system unjustly imprisoning people for minor offenses like marijuana, possession of psychedelics, that type of thing. So, and I think that's one way in which we're not embodying our value of freedom. You know, we have so many people incarcerated. We're the world leader in incarceration. And I think that's, like, it's incongruous with our core values. And I think a lot of us, most of us, don't know what to do about it. And just, it's this big thing that's happening that seems scary and wrong. So I guess my answer would be that I don't think we should be keeping other human beings in cages. Pretty much for anything. Like, I think the only thing that really justifies that is, like, if somebody is violent, like truly violent. And you know, there are other ways that people commit crimes that endanger others, and maybe I think that justifies some incarceration. But yeah, I think that's a deep cognitive dissonance in terms of our values. We're saying we're the freest country in the world, and then we have the most prisoners.
That's a juxtaposition. That's a connection right there.
So yeah, that's what I'd change. I think psychedelics should be legal. I think people should be able to explore the contents of their own mind using whatever aid that they see fit, as long as they do no harm to others. And we have plenty of laws about not doing harm to others. I believe that stuff should be 100% legal.
Yeah, I think getting back to that, it's just like, are we still able to operate compassionately, you know, under the influence of these things? And if we are, then great. And if not, then obviously can't be doing that shit in public. Like,
yeah, I mean, that, you know, it gets back to actions though. Like if you're, you know, as you know, alcohol brings about more violence and danger and death than just about any other drug that I know of.
Yeah, I've never seen an angry stoner. I don't think I've never seen a.
Yeah, and I believe it really comes down to personal freedom. Like people,
yeah,
adults should have the right to choose what they do with their own body. Like for instance, nature makes mushrooms. Some of those mushrooms are illegal to possess, and you can in fact go to jail for having something that grows in the ground. That's just crazy. Literally insane.
I'm curious. I was thinking about that. Like, I was thinking about freedom the other day, and how much I love the fact that I can say what I want, and, you know, for the most part, do what I want. And I think our conversation, maybe it was like a month or two ago, about you being told that, you know, you have to go inside. Like you can't be out in the public right now. That really sparked this train of thought, was like, what would I do if I was trying to protect America, you know, from a potentially deadly virus, and a highly contagious one at that? And well, like,
that was curfew for rioting in Santa Monica, not for COVID.
Okay, cool.
Although we do have a COVID curfew right now, so please continue with your thought.
Yeah, right. Because we're our rate of infection and the mortality rate is rising, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how am I going to lead a country that's super diverse and have you know, a bunch of different religions and belief systems? Like, I'm going to protect all of them. And like, I would play to the lowest standard, you know, and try and like blanket statement something, you know, in the beginning, and then I would expand on that and you know, deepen those expectations to be situational, kind of like the situational leadership styles. But I mean, it's such a tough task. Like, you know, I was thinking in the beginning, I would probably tell everybody that, like, yeah, everybody stay inside, like, wear a mask, don't touch anybody, like, and we'll be good in, you know, a couple months. Like, just chill, like, binge Netflix. I mean, like,
would you say that? That would be your plan?
I would say it just like that. I would say it just like that. I want to be authentic as the leader of our country. Like, just chill. Or like, no, better yet, go snag like your 4 to like 5 besties, you know, and like move in together. And so you can have company and, you know, build a small community and a tiny little culture together for the next 3 to 4 months. It was 2 to 3 in the beginning. Next 3 to 6 months, you know, no big.
Next couple of years, we're not sure how long it's going to take. Just hang tight.
Yeah, I would probably do that. But then you get, you know, the diversity that comes in, and people who say like, no, you're infringing on my freedoms and my rights. Like, I shouldn't have. What? You are suspicious right now, dude. Potato suspicious. You're going to get half the country who's like, you're taking away my liberties, and you're going to get other half the country who's like, great, you're doing the right thing. And like, that's why I just want to get back to the fundamentals. I want to get back to like just want to get back to the science, man. Like the I think, not the like I believe. Like I want to have a really good idea. I want to have a hypothesis, you know, and test it out and figure it out that way.
It's been interesting that it's been really hard to receive clear scientific guidance with regards to the pandemic. And I think, you know, everyone and their mom has become like an
expert, a COVID expert,
epidemiologist.
Right? Like where are you get WebMD? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. But let me speak to what you just said a little bit, because I think I'm in the other camp. Like I think lockdowns are wrong in a number of different ways. I think it's really not compassionate, because it's essentially, you know, very literally, it is locking down everybody's lives to protect the few who are vulnerable. And what I don't understand is, why can't we protect the vulnerable people without stopping everything, shutting down the economy, putting millions or billions of people into like pretty direct, like dangerous poverty / hunger? It's like, how can we not figure that out? I think we're looking at this really absurd single factor analysis where like COVID is absolutely the worst possible thing that can happen to anybody. So we need to do everything in our power to prevent COVID from happening. And it's still fucking tearing through the population despite all the measures that we're taking, because it seems to be incredibly contagious.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. Like everybody's going to get COVID. At least that's what I hear. But
the idea of like shutting down the economy and locking down populations for a virus that like really to most people isn't that dangerous. Like it's very contagious, but it's actually not very dangerous. So I think the methods that we're taking are not compassionate. I think they're incredibly dangerous. I think we're doing damage that's going to last for years and years, if not a decade. Like we're throwing ourselves into an economic depression that has not been seen in our lifetimes. And it's happening now. And we think that it's okay because we haven't hit the shit hasn't fully hit the fan yet. But the shit's coming, folks.
The fecal matter hits the oscillating rotator on the ceiling.
Yeah, now's the time. Buy Bitcoin, buy gold, buy silver. Stock up on food.
Yeah, I saw Bitcoin the other day. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, I really wish I'd invested my whole savings into it about 6 months ago when I thought about that. But
I was telling you, man.
Yeah, and you know, it's just like I don't know, man. I can't claim to be some type of expert, you know, because I have not studied the virus, and I think that again, saying that lockdown is the answer, or saying that lockdown is not the answer is tough when I think there's still unknowns about this virus. And like I at least, you know, I don't know if this is hearsay again. It's like I almost feel like I have to say allegedly in front of everything that I'm citing now. But like I think I heard that the virus like had mutated for the first time, and that there was some type of second strain of the virus. And I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not entirely sure about how much we really know. I guess we know enough to make a vaccine, so that must mean we know a lot about it. But like, if what you're saying is correct, and you know, the virus is incredibly dangerous for a small population of, you know, old or obese or pre-existing conditioned folk in the world, then why aren't we trying to come up with some type of equitable risk management plan for the future, instead of a blanket, everyone is getting locked down, not just the people who are most at risk? You know, why is that not the case? because
That's
it's
what I think
easier.
is crazy about it. It doesn't, it's like let's give everybody the same prescription. We got this one big problem. Let's give everybody the same prescription. And hopefully we'll be able to all give them another prescription soon in the form of vaccine. And I say hopefully not because I want it, because I don't.
You don't want it?
But I believe if people want that, they should go ahead and do it.
I mean, I think it's similar to the flu vaccine, right? Like, you know, there's people who take flu vaccines, there's people that don't, you know. I think what's scary to me is that we'll have half the country who aren't mask wearers and don't take the vaccine, and then you get half the country who does wear masks and, you know, takes the vaccine. So you got mask wearers and non-mask wearers.
It's like the star-bellied sneeches.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, I could see that as, you know, a potential future. It's scary to me how divided we are, and on things that seem like we should be able to come to an agreement on them. And he, you know, I think it was in Biden's last speech, or maybe his one of the ones they did just a second ago. But you know, he was talking a lot about the United States of America instead of the divided states of America, and whether or not he has the actions to back those words. You know, I want that to be I want that to be what the youth of America is hearing, and I want that to be the, you know, one of our core values is that we're trying to unite instead of divide. And when we get a super contagious virus that is deadly to a small portion of people, it seems like that's a great introduction and a great challenge for us to work through as a country. And I think if we can see it as conflict that can breed progress and growth, great. But if we keep on seeing these challenges not as opportunities, I think we're totally boned, man. Like, I mean, what? Like, are we just not going to talk? You know, like, are we not going to have conversations and like try and resolve? Like, if our politicians and the people leading our country were my students on my course, we would be having the longest debrief conversations of your life. Like, we would just be sitting there talking it out, sharing everybody's perspectives, like, every day until we could figure something out. Like, and if they revolted, then we just stopped moving. You know, if they couldn't agree to our basic fundamentals, you know, as a group, the value that we agreed on in the beginning, you know, like, if we can't agree to keep each other emotionally safe and, you know, say and do things that are conducive to emotional safety, then we just can't partake. We can't participate. So we're just going to sit here until you guys figure out how to be compassionate humans, or have respect, at least at the very bottom, just respect.
That really is what it feels like is happening right now. It's like, we're not going to go anywhere until you motherfuckers start talking to each other, start listening. We're just going to sit here.
For real, dude. For real.
Like, one side yelling at the other side. Everybody's got their ears closed.
Earmuffs. Put your earmuffs.
Hey, listen to me. Listen to me.
But I almost think that on some level, like, America just straight up shouldn't have voted. Like, everybody should have just boycotted and just been like, no, like, I'm not playing this game. Like, you all are not, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. You know,
are you familiar with the Unity 2020 platform, or the ticket?
No.
This guy, Brett Weinstein, who basically was like, this is terrifying. Like, we have these two candidates who are absolutely 100% not fit to be the leaders of our country. We need to do something about this. And what he did was he garnered support for getting a unity ticket, which was one Republican, one Democrat, together on one ticket. Both, I think the requirements he was looking for were essentially like a capable, brave patriot. It's like, that's what we're looking for. And he tried to bring together the two parties in that way and run a third ticket. And he got censored by social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He got censored? Why?
He got censored by social media. Because.
Why?
Because they're a propaganda machine. I don't know. He got taken down. Off Twitter. I'm pretty sure Facebook either blocked or shadow banned or did something to his platform.
I've been seeing a lot about that, like, you know, Twitter is censoring certain things, and like, I'm like, okay, cool, we're trying to censor stuff or censor potentially misleading messages or tweets or whatever.
Right.
Like, okay, cool, but like, is this not like, dude, the slipperiest of slopes? I can't even imagine. Like,
it's a very slippery slope. I mean, we're dealing with companies that literally are holding more power than any corporations have ever held in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're in this position where they're kind of like deciding whether or not they should be the judge and the jury about what can be shared and what can't be shared. But just that being censored, I thought, was really dangerous and scary, because it's not like it's dangerous misinformation about a deadly virus or
mm-hmm. Yeah,
that kind of thing. Is like,
it's like trying to summon up like a new party.
Share their political views on social media. That seems reasonable. Anyways, that's something that's happening at the moment that I think is pretty scary.
I'd like to look at.
There's a little bit of an attack on freedom of speech in general, where we're getting to this place where there are some things that really are like, there's being speech that is getting shut down. It's something that I've noticed being more prevalent this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I'm really interested to see how we move forward with that, because there's obviously a need to the like half truths that are now being passed off as truths. Like, I can just say anything now and just make it be true. Like, I mean, I think Trump has like really coined that term. I forget what term it is. But
yeah, fake news.
Yeah, fake news, but it's not even fake news now. It's like you can just say shit and it's just true. Like, he's just passing stuff off like as fact. And like, obviously there has to be something about that. Like, I don't know if is it like every post has to get cited, like you're writing a paper in college again. Like you flip over, you're like, bam, bam, bam. Okay, last one. I see all the sources. Like is that where we're moving? Or like, you get a check mark on that post if it's substantiated by a third party that's not biased or funded by anybody. It's just a bunch of volunteers who are stoked on like truth. Like.
Yeah, we need some truly unbiased fact checkers.
Yeah, like, we need to get super creative with it, because it's that problem's not going anywhere, and
getting worse.
I mean, it has seriously dangerous implications for the future of our country
and the world.
And the world, because we're a leader of the free world. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine having to be the one trying to decide where to draw that line, because there's, if you're a private company and you're sharing you know, you're facilitating all this sharing of information. Like there has to be some point where, you know, like graphic violence is not accepted. Like pornography is not accepted. Like there's some line there. But once it starts getting into like which idea is right and which idea is wrong, especially around something where there's legitimate debate and social media starts to censor it, like you said, boy, is that a slippery slope.
I'm curious, you know, have you seen those BuzzFeed videos where they're like a bunch of veterans in a room talk to a bunch of pacifists or something, or like old army people talk to new army people, or like, you know, have you seen those things on BuzzFeed? No. We do it a lot in the ODL, in the outdoor leadership community, is like an on the bus, off the bus, or cross the line or something. Basically, you get like a dividing line, and you ask questions, and students either agree and step forward or disagree and step back. And so you can also do it as like I think it's like steps to privilege, I think might be what it's called. In a second, but you all start at the same spot and you ask questions that essentially get at the amount of privilege that you've either been born with or not, or whatever. And you step forward the more privilege that you have, and it becomes clear that things that you have very little control over are advancing you in a society that plays for you, or the rules are kind of written for you in that way. So I think it would be really interesting to do that with our country, is to do a dividing line, like what are the things that we can agree on? And like, let's not talk about typically like highly debated topics, you know, just talk about, I don't know, maybe the fundamentals of, I don't know, of our humanity. I think it would be interesting to see if you could get Republicans and Democrats, or far right, far left, to agree on things. I think that that would be an interesting activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a deep level, like we agree about more than we disagree about. You know, everybody for the most part wants the best for themselves and their family. They want to live in a safe community, and they want to have people that they love and respect around them in their community. They want to be able to make a living in, you know, ideally doing something that they enjoy or at least can tolerate.
Yeah.
If not better. And they want, you know, they want to be treated with respect by the other people in their community.
Yeah.
And we want to have access to clean food and clean water and outdoor spaces. And obviously shelter.
Yeah, like
I feel like all these basic human needs are, you know, it's like easy to agree on that stuff.
Yeah.
And that makes up the majority of life, really. It's like that's what we spend most of our time like doing or being a part of those experiences. But then we have these like certain areas of passionate disagreement where we put a ton of focus on, you know, this thing or that thing that we disagree on.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as we were saying before, social media is kind of like a polarization amplifier.
That's interesting. That just reminded me of like when I've worked with difficult students in the past, is what is the first thing that I'll try and do is figure out what we do agree upon, like either what we have in common or what we agree on. So like finding some commonality is like my first step, always my first. And as far as like working with kids who have anger management issues or like depressive tendencies or anything like that, like that is always the first step into you know, conflict resolution is like where build rapport, basically, like find common ground authentically and in the most organic way you can.
I mean, dude, yeah, I mean, it's a long tangent. I know we're kind of coming up on the mark, but I remember having this all girls group that I worked. Man, they were so cool. They were like the coolest group of 8th grade girls I've ever worked with. And working as the only male in the group was an interesting opportunity for me. Because I finally got that, I think, like primal fatherly instinct to empower a group of like young women who were, you know, moving towards, you know, being leaders in their school or, you know, in their home life or whatever. And I remember at the end of every course, we do a PCE, a personal challenge event. If you want to know more about that, you can go to my Instagram. I've talked about it for like 5 minutes too long on my Instagram one time, but the personal challenge event is all about yourself. It's not like a competition against anybody else. It's framed, the experience is framed around doing your best and trying your hardest, and whatever that means for you, which is a very equitable thing to talk about. You know, similar to like when you're climbing a route on a cliff, like who is reaching the top of that route what success means? And if the top of the route is getting to the top is what success means, who put the top there? Like that was some climbing bum who drilled 2 holes and put 2 bolts and an anchor system right there in the route. The route could have easily been 10 to 15 feet higher than that, but we have perceived, you know, the top being the success. I think so. The personal challenge event gets at the subjectivity of what success means and framing it around that success is you trying your hardest and whatever that means for you. So it gives everybody a level playing field in some ways, kind of what we were just talking about, but it's level in the sense that as long as you are trying your hardest, whatever that looks like, then like, good on you, that's badass, that's the personal challenge event.
Great.
So I'm turning this into a long story already. So the girls were running the race and they were running their, you know, their hardest, and they came back, you know, we're debriefing the whole event, you know, and they told me that this group of guys wouldn't let these girls pass because they didn't want to let a girl win, you know, little 8th graders. They didn't want to let these girls pass. And they were like, come on, we're trying to run, like, let us pass, blah, blah, blah. And the dudes wouldn't let them pass. And like, even though they were slower, like they were being slow, like slower than the girls. So blah, blah, blah. We finally got to talk about like what that's going to look like for the rest of their lives in school, in sports, in jobs, in college, and in the rest of their life. The people who are going to try and hold them back because of the body that they're born into, because of the perception of who they are and the box that society is trying to put them in. So do I think that the girls or the boys should have had a head start? Like, am I trying to build them up by like giving them 10 extra meters on the start line? Like, no, I'm not. All I want to talk about is the things in our society that are trying to hold us back, whether we want them to or not, depending on who we are, where we're from, and what we look like. And like, I want to identify those things, and I want to ask a lot of questions about them. And I want to shine light on it, because I think awareness of it is, I don't want to say good enough, but it's a damn good start, you know, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So does anything come to mind right now? Like, what are those things?
you could look at it through the lens of people with disabilities. Frequently, people with disabilities are defined by their disability and take on a self-fulfilling prophecy type of identity. So, for instance, you know, people who are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD or any other type of learning disability are defined by their disability and put in different groups throughout school, which then defines their identity. And I think as a school system, as an educational system, it would be more equitable to try and pinpoint that student's strengths as opposed to their weaknesses, and saying that because you are weak at writing a 10-page paper and your written skills are not that great, maybe your auditory skills or maybe your auditory learning skills are off the charts. You know, maybe you have insane recall. What type of activities or projects or tests can we give you that might play a little bit more to your strengths, as opposed to putting you on the same bar with everybody else? Like, the majority of people who don't have that type of learning disability are obviously going to excel in, you know, algebra 2 trig or something like that. You know, so it's like, that might not be the best concrete example, but it's essentially an example saying that, like, our school system is playing towards equality, the SAT, you know, it's standardized aptitude test. And it's like, dude, we are not standardized. Like, standard
aptitudes.
Dude, like, I am by no means, I cannot remember. I'm reading and I can't even remember the page that I just read. Like, I have no recall in that way. But I would say my emotional intelligence is on a different level or different scale than that. So, like, if I would have had teachers tell me that I was smart back in the day, just not the same type of smart as, you know, Eldar in the next room who was crushing math, like, that could have been a game changer for me. You know, I could have maybe had, like, realized that 10 years sooner and like, oh, wow, I am smart.
Yeah, like, I think it's really criminal that we treat kids in this way, that they should all be educated in the same manner and they should all, like, sit in chairs and learn the same thing at the same time for hours and hours a day.
For an hour and a half? Are you joking?
I think there's some really important fundamentals that all kids need to learn. And then I think we should be specializing from a much younger age. The idea of standardized education all the way up to 12th grade, and then even kind of in through college, like, a lot of people kind of get a standard education in college too, is completely insane. And I think we're missing out on a lot of potential because people's natural talents and abilities aren't being nurtured from a young age. Certain styles of learning are being really, like, fostered and encouraged, and then other ones, like you said, are being, you know, completely ignored or discouraged. And I think we're missing out on an incredible amount of potential by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's a deep problem with our school system that is, you know, sort of exists, I guess, in conjunction, but also separately from the whole equity conversation, or the conversation about identity groups and how they're treated differently.
Yeah, and, you know, it's a small example because I'm just going to try and talk from you know, what I know, which is kind of what we've been talking about. But I think that from a young age, we are teaching our kids that it isn't equity, that you have to play to the same you have to play on the same field as everybody else. And like,
well, that's true.
It is true. And I'm by no means saying that everyone should get a blue participation ribbon. I think that's a massive issue with our culture. Like the fact that homie who did not try at all, despite his like what he's going through, you know, like it's another story, but the same. So another PCE, like dude who was a little bit overweight and couldn't really run. I drove past him and watched him like not walk, but like saunter through the whole personal challenge event. And I might need to like take my like Outward Bound hat off, but like
hats
for
off.
me, yeah, hats off for me. My host. Let me see if I can go full fuzz for this. So for me, the whole group at the finish line who was waiting for this dude who did not try at all, like they all cheered for him and gave him like a participation ribbon. And I was like, dude, like, no, there's nothing wrong with a light social shaming. Like I don't want everybody to get a participation ribbon. Like, I don't know, man. I just like,
the pendulum can swing way too hard in that direction, and it will result, and it has been resulting in the weakening of us and our children and our nation. Because like it's a harsh world sometimes, you know, and to kind of like bubble wrap and baby kids through their youth and their adolescence and then throw them out into the world is to absolutely like cripple them and do them a disservice, because they're gonna go out into the world soft and weak and sensitive and just get torn apart. Like it's you know, we're seeing it happen more and more with our generation and the younger generations, as there's something about the way that we're treating people, treating our kids that's weakening them instead of strengthening them.
Yeah, man. I really wish that we had. I think if whoever's still listening, I think you should definitely go check out the it's Kurt Hahn's, I think, Gordon Strum report card. You can just Google it, but it was Kurt Hahn's school that he started, and his report card, the things that he graded his students on were very controversial at the time and very unconventional, but played to things outside of their ability to read, write, do math, and you know, recite some science facts. You know, he was grading kids on things that were you know, measurable but very unique. So I would point anybody in that direction just to get some ideas on I don't know, man. I part of me wants to go into the school system just so I can shake things up a little bit. But I don't know if I can play to their what their idea of success is. I don't
Yeah. I used to want to be a school teacher, and then I just realized the types of hoops I would have to jump through to be able to fit within that system. And I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to fit. Just a little bit
save the shaman.
Real world consequences here.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that shaman though. Put that sucker back up there sometime.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna wait till the podcasting's over. So yeah, we're running down on time here. I want to get to the last line items that we need to get to here.
Yeah,
so a couple of important things we wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Wait, what am I cued for for action?
Yep. There are a couple subjects you said you wanted to get into at the end.
Oh yeah, before our break. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I was just thinking about like how easy it is to say there's all these problems, and there's tons of stuff that we can talk about forever, like, you know, equity versus equality and what that means, and how we move forward as a country and as a race. It's easy to get into this like roadblock full path, like it's just a path full of roadblocks. And
yeah, wait, on that roadblock note, what race are you?
What race?
Yeah, what race are you?
The human race, dog.
Yeah. Me too.
Like we're all stuck on this tiny little blue dot, you know, together, whether we want to or not. So I just like, I don't want problems without solutions. And I think a lot of the problems that we're facing like don't necessarily have very clear cut solutions. So there was something that Kurt Hahn, the founder of Outbound, who I've mentioned a couple of times, said that needed to be preserved as we move forward. And let's see, I don't have the quote anywhere, so let's just see if I can remember it. But Kurt Hahn said that it is our responsibility to ensure the survival of these traits. He said, an enterprising curiosity, an indefatigable spirit, which is undefeatable, but indefatigable, I think is how it was actually pronounced. Indefatigable spirit, tenacity in pursuit of excellence. So tenacity in pursuit, and above all, compassion. And I think in this like gray area of this transfer of power and global pandemic and, you know, some type of systemic racism or cycle of, you know, oppression and division of our country. And I mean, like, I'm not sure what the history books are going to say in 10 years, but I hope that we will move forward, continuing to be curious, continuing to be tenacious in our spirit of moving forward, and be creative. And then above all, I just hope that we're compassionate to one another. And like if we're just taking those steps, at least we can help each other. We can help construct each other's experiences instead of deconstructing each other.
Amen, brother. Above all, compassion.
Dude, yeah. Kurt Hahn knew it was up.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think that's a great note to be finishing up on. Is there anything else you'd like to say to wrap it, or were those the magic words?
Oh man, those are the magic words. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram or whatever, and my business partner Mike and I are working on this really cool project in Missouri, trying to start a eco-adventure campground. Just giving people more access in the Midwest to outdoor adventures. So check up on that project. But
awesome. Can you give us those names? What's the Instagram? What should we look for?
Oh man, we're still in the proposal stage, working with the city, so it's moving pretty slow. But yeah, I mean, we're toying with a couple of ideas for the company name. One of them is oh wait, I can't say it. Actually, I don't want somebody to steal it.
Secret.
It's a secret. I can't talk about a lot of it, but you can follow me at Jackson DePew at Instagram and on Instagram, and I'll be sharing that stuff as it comes up.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the stuff you post on there. it's positive and uplifting. So I highly recommend jumping on there to check it out. He just brings the good vibes. Lastly, are you part of any secret societies that involve punting mushrooms into people's faces?
I don't know I don't really know what you're talking about.
No, nothing like that ring a bell?
You know, I don't know, man. I got ear pods in my ears, so I can't really hear anything.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't think anything like that even exists. But
I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I don't know if you wanted to like sing a song or something that might ring a bell with me, remind me of anything.
Let's just go ahead and leave it with blessings for all from Father Toadstool.
Okay, cool. That's good. Yeah, I thought
mushrooms are super connectors, by the way.
They are super connectors. Mushrooms are going to save the planet, and badgers and snakes, of course.
You're right. Mushrooms, badgers, and snakes.
Hey, I for real, man. Alec, you've given me so much inspiration over, since I started knowing you, and I just like I love how you interact with the universe, and I'm just like I'm so grateful that you're doing something like this and just showing us that to not be scared of following our hearts, like and like doing something and moving forward. And you've always been like a great role model to me and a great example for us all on that we're capable of more than we know. And if you just do it, you might be able to realize that you are.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that a lot. I feel the same way about you.
Oh man, thanks for having me on this. What episode is this for you?
This is going to be episode 4.
No way. Who else have you interviewed?
I interviewed me. Lots more to come on that interview, and then my second interview was with my mom.
Oh, nice.
I had another Warren Wilsonite, Chris Busting, on episode 3.
Oh, cool. I don't know if did I ever meet him?
I think you guys didn't quite cross paths. He left right before you got there.
Oh, are you going to interview Carell?
Oh yeah. I think he might be the next one after you, actually.
How are you going to track him down? Are you going to send a messenger pigeon over to us?
I already got him with I sent a hermit to New York City with a lantern. Are you a corral?
Oh man, dude, I cannot wait to hear that one. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have multiple episodes with him.
Yeah. Part 1, 2, and 3 for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we didn't even.
Knowledge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's just carrying a book and just whips it out and shit. Oh, let me just bust out a perfect quote for you that addresses this problem that you're having right now. Yeah, man, I feel like we almost didn't even get into some of the stuff that we could have even talked about. So I'm stoked to see where this goes and to maybe talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, let's do episode 2 for sure.
Episode 2. Yeah, maybe I won't have to try and talk about my feelings about politics right now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. It feels like there's a lot of landmines out there, especially once you start talking about race in this country right now. It's like it's just yeah. There's a lot of really intense feelings and a lot of like real legitimate grievances, and then there's a lot of like also again social media is an amplifier, so it's just like bringing all the worst stuff that's happening straight into our news feeds for us to look at and be angry about, and then it like builds and builds and builds and builds. So I think it's super important to be able to speak about it, and not sort of fear like cancellation from sharing your opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like we need, dude, we need a bunch of full value contracts. Like it just at the start, it's almost like trying to say pardon my French. It's like, well, pardon my French, but you know, I can say whatever I want now that I said pardon my French. Like I want to have this conversation and be like, look, like I mean no harm. Like I'm just a small golden retriever trying to play his part in humanity. Like I just tell you my intention, and now we can just talk openly. But it's I'm afraid that's not how it is.
Let's do just one more question here. We're gonna have to do some editing at the end because we got into casual conversation mode. But I just wanted to say, like, on top of that, what legacy do you want to leave?
Ooh, man. I've been thinking a little bit about legacy lately, as I've been trying to meditate on my own vulnerability. With that, I think comes what you're leaving behind. Yeah, man. I don't know. I honestly don't even know right now. I think like the legacy that I want to leave behind is probably an offspring that's dedicated to bringing joy and happiness to the world, and trying to like bring people closer to themselves and the people around them. Like if I died like tomorrow, I would be happy knowing that I have successfully like engaged and empowered a good amount of people to be better versions of themselves and be better to the people who they meet in this world. So I think that's the legacy that I want to leave. I just want to do it at scale, you know, so I can do it more.
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? Figuring out how to scale that shit up.
Gotta scale it up, but it's just hard, man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, put some more thought into that, and we'll include a revised legacy next time for episode or round 2 with Jackson.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay, cool. I'll think about that.
It's a thing to constantly be thinking about, really.
Yeah, there was this educator who did this one solo brief, and I think it was on maybe emotion, action, and legacy. Man, I don't know. Yeah, let's do another one. I'll do a little bit more research into some of that stuff, and then maybe we can talk about it more.
Cool. Sounds good, mate. Well, I look forward to it. Thanks for coming on.
All right, nice. Will you give me an Aries handshake here to send me off?
Yeah, you know it. Virtually is the best way to do that, actually.
Yeah, I have no risk of punching myself with your fist.
That's what the Aries handshake is, isn't it?
Yeah,
punch myself with your fist.
Yeah, it is. All right, man.
You saw me and Andy's zodiac signs handshake video, right?
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
That really needs to go viral. I don't know what's taking it so long.
Yeah, you got to post it about 10 more times and on TikTok, and then it'll happen.
Nobody knows how to search for it. That's the thing.
Yeah, no.
Just start running ads to the zodiac handshakes video. This is my gift to humanity.
You want to know about my legacy? I will tell you about my legacy. These handshakes right here. Yeah, dude. Throw it up on TikTok a bunch of different ways. Put some catchy music to it or something.
Yeah, well, it already has music. It's got, Andy did a good job with the music editing on it.
Oh, did he?
It's just on the YouTube, I think.
You're not
like
gonna.
Nobody's searching for that on YouTube.
What do you mean? Nobody wants to know how to do astrological handshakes?
I shouldn't say nobody. Some people are searching for it.
There's one motherfucker out there who wants to know how to do a Taurus handshake, dude.
Got like 100 views or something.
Dude, I think there's massive potential on TikTok right now. I'm just like scared at the privacy part of it.
Yeah, I should get back to putting some videos on there. I was doing a really good job of videoing myself when I was drawing, and then I always get frustrated because it like you really gotta let the creative flow happen when it's happening, and like fucking with the camera and the lights and everything, just like it really distracts and slows me down.
Yeah.
But that's not a good enough excuse. I should still videotape stuff.
There you go. See, that's how Alec thinks. He's like, oh, fuck that though. But no, that's not a good excuse.
I like to talk through it. I like to really get into the pros and cons.
Yeah. Well, how do you want to sign off here? Do you have like a sign off like slogan or something you say at the end? Like over and out. Like,
there's no secret society, okay? Forget what you heard about the secret society.